First at 5. From the University of Florida's College of Journalism and Communications, you're watching WUFT News.
Death sentences for dogs that bite will change under a new Florida law. We'll have that story coming up.
Alachua County Commissioners take another shot at a living wage ordinance. We'll hear from workers.
And Micanopy reverses course on a freestanding generator right next to a children's playground. But first, being homeless brings a host of problems, but one often overlooked problem is finding a reliable means of transportation. That's our top story. Good evening. It's Wednesday, March 9th. I'm Marie Edinger.
And I'm Connor Ingalls. Thanks for joining us. In 2014, Grace Marketplace was introduced to the city of Gainesville, providing enhanced living standards for the homeless. Nearly 2 years later, residents are now given lunch on a daily basis and even a means of transportation. WUFT reporter Ryan Nelson joins us now with more.
That's right, Connor. Grace Marketplace and Dignity Village residents are given annual bus passes, but the system isn't perfect and still faces a few hurdles going into the future.
Getting around town can be hard for anyone, but being homeless only makes matters more difficult. In turn, Grace Marketplace, in conjunction with city officials and RTS, provides bus passes for residents to make their way around town.
If someone is a resident of Grace Marketplace or Dignity Village, we provide them with an annual bus pass. It's good from May of 2015 through May of 2016.
As of now, there are 3 bus routes that pick up Grace Marketplace residents on Monday through Friday and 1 on the weekend. Residents who have lived at either Grace Marketplace or Dignity Village for at least 48 hours are able to get bus passes. They then have access to services outside of the facilities, including visits to Social Security, the health department, and work. But getting to the bus stop isn't easy on everyone.
It's very hard on a handicapped person in the wheelchairs, and just like me, and I got hurt because I have to use a cane.
Grace Marketplace residents, some of which are disabled, have to walk down this road, 28th Drive, for about a quarter mile to make it to the bus stop. But RTS officials say the length of the road meets national standards.
So around the country, typically a quarter-mile walking distance is a reasonable distance for someone to walk that's able-bodied or even in a mobility device such as a walker or a wheelchair.
So why can't the bus go directly to Grace to pick up and drop off residents? Well, as of now, there simply isn't enough space. The bus needs a larger area to turn around, which could mean taking away tent space, and if the bus were going to back up, the bus driver would need a spotter or someone to stand and watch as the bus reverses.
The bus system itself isn't perfect either. Some residents have tried selling their passes online. RTS officials check the web twice weekly for passes and say they found 3 for sale in 2016 and they canceled the passes. In the summer of 2016, the City Commission will decide whether to include the bus passes in the city budget.
All right, thank you, Ryan. We've been talking these past couple days about warm weather and sunny skies. I personally am very happy to be having that type of conversation.
You look pretty happy. UF forecaster Amanda Hawley joins us now, and she could make you a little bit less cheery. There could be some fog on the way. Is that right, Amanda?
That's right. And it's just some patchy fog out there. It could be a little dense towards morning, but it will burn off as soon as that sun starts to rise. Here's Fog Tracker. The areas in yellow that you start to see pop up there, that's areas where visibility could be less than 1 mile. So you can see it starts to develop just west of the I-75 corridor just after 5 a.m. and then becomes a little bit more widespread right around drive time. So plan for a couple extra minutes as you head out the door tomorrow morning. But this all follows a pretty nice warm day out there. We started off a little bit cloudy this morning, also with some patchy fog, but those clouds started to break apart. We had a mix of some sun and clouds, a high of 82 on the University of Florida campus this afternoon. And temperatures tonight, besides the fog, will actually be pretty mild. So you can keep the warm, happy feelings there because temperatures will continue to be warm for the next few days as well. But we'll hit 63 degrees by 2 a.m. out there, and tonight low of around 58. But coming up, I'll have much more on your 6-day forecast. Back to you.
Thanks, Amanda. Alachua County contract workers will not be enjoying a pay hike for at least a few more weeks under the proposed living wage ordinance. WUFT's Alexandra Go attended last night's meeting where the proposal was discussed, approved, and then put on hold.
Last night, Alachua County Commissioners unanimously gave approval to an ordinance that may increase the pay rate for contract employees with Alachua County to $12 an hour.
We are serious about addressing income inequality and income disparity.
The County Commission is postponing a final decision, however, until changes can be made to the language and exemptions of the proposed ordinance. The exemptions in question would allow companies contracted with the county to pay certain people, such as seasonal workers, students, and those with disabilities, less than the $12 minimum. County commissioners are directing staff to remove several groups from the exemptions and return with a reasoning for each of the others. One former county worker who wouldn't benefit from such a pay raise spoke to support others who could.
They'll be able to pay their bills. They'll be able to hopefully put some aside in case of an emergency happens, which I was unable to do when my mother got sick and passed away.
The Alachua County Labor Coalition is urging the board to consider raising the county's minimum rate to a living wage, or $14.60 over a 5-year period. Some labor activists see what transpired last night as an important starting point for local residents to live without outside assistance.
The upshot of it is that they came with a decent ordinance and they want a great ordinance, so they're sending it back so that we can vote on a great ordinance.
The County Commission is scheduled to evaluate the revised ordinance proposal April 12th. Alexandra Go, WUFT News.
According to Tattersall, an estimated 200 county contract workers and their families would benefit from the proposed pay raise.
And now for some state news. New information on the Zika virus tonight. The first sexually transmitted case has been confirmed in Polk County. The virus was spread from an individual who had traveled out of the country. Governor Rick Scott is asking the CDC to host another conference call with Florida healthcare workers about Zika. Healthcare workers would review how the virus is spread, its symptoms, treatments, and proper precautions. A woman is in the hospital after police say she was shot by her 4-year-old son. Putnam County Sheriff's deputies say they have a lot of questions after a 31-year-old Jamie Gilt was shot by her own son in her car. Investigators say the woman's 4-year-old son accidentally shot her in the back while he was in the back seat of the car. The mother, a guns rights supporter, was taken to UF Health and is now in stable condition. The Florida Department of Children and Family Services is investigating how the boy got the handgun. A detective with the Jacksonville, Florida Sheriff's Office is in critical condition after getting shot in West Jacksonville this morning.
We still are digging into the details of the case. We're not exactly sure at this point what has happened, but we've got witnesses at the scene that we're interviewing now. We're talking to those people.
Central Florida substitute teacher has been arrested and accused of teaching while intoxicated. Sanford police officers arrested Holly Joel and charged her with child neglect, disorderly conduct, intoxication, and interfering with school administration functions. Yesterday, Bentley Elementary School's resource officer was notified by school staff that the substitute was possibly intoxicated while on duty. She was responsible for the care and supervision of numerous elementary-age students. Joel was arrested and taken to the county jail. And there's another presidential debate tonight, and this time it's the Democrats. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton will meet in Miami in a debate moderated by reporters from Univision and the Washington Post. It's their second showdown in 4 days. Last night, Clinton soundly defeated Sanders in Mississippi, but the big story of the night was Sanders winning the Michigan primary. The debate will be simulcast on CNN and Fusion. The Republicans will be holding their own debate in Miami tomorrow night. We'll be on site tomorrow in Miami to get you caught up with what happens tonight between Clinton and Sanders and also preview the GOP debate.
Some moms in Micanopy have been complaining for weeks about a generator which was set up at a local playground. They say it showed up one day, and ever since they've worried their kids might get too close. Our reporters went to talk to Micanopy officials who declined to comment, and in the time it took to ask neighbors what they thought, the generator disappeared.
I'm just glad they finally did something about it. It took somebody coming out and paying attention for them to move something that is a potential problem, even if it's not plugged in.
According to January's commission meeting minutes, officials talked about putting a fence around the generator if they began to use it. It was supposed to serve as an emergency power for the fire station. It's unclear if or when it'll come back. And back in Gainesville, wheelchair access problems at Sweetwater Wetland Park have been taken care of, but staff members say there's more work to be done. The park is undergoing repairs after the Gainesville Parks Recreation and Cultural Affairs Department heard complaints regarding ADA access. Someone in a wheelchair had travel difficulties because of the gravel surface of the trail. And so more gravel has been added to help level the surface, but not enough to make the ground easy to roll over in a wheelchair.
So what we've done is here in the last week or so, we've put some additional recycled concrete material down, hoping that that will continue to stabilize the area. And if that doesn't work, then we're going to look at different options.
Officials want to make the park accessible to everyone in the community. A meeting is being planned to discuss the trail, which might include paving it. Do you even lift is the question some University of Florida students are asking to raise awareness about the struggles of farm workers. The immigrant advocacy group Chispas held the event in Plaza of the Americas as a way of bringing attention to the harsh conditions farm workers go through. Students who are able to lift a 32-pound bucket through the plaza in less than a minute are rewarded with a cookie. Organizers say this is a way for people to grasp some of the challenges migrant workers face.
We're trying to kind of have students understand the physical struggles and how much farm workers have to go through to not even make minimum wage. So I think that's really gonna surprise students to know that for all this amount of work, they only get kind of equivalent to a cookie or maybe even less.
Chispas will be teaming up with the coalition of Immokalee workers for the March for Farm Worker Justice in Gainesville. WUFT News First at 5 is just getting started. Coming up, Florida is changing its law on death sentences for dogs that have caused harm to others. That story in 2 minutes.
Plus, phone apps that combine the simplicity of a text and the nuance of a phone call. That story and more coming up in our consumer segment.
And the dry and unseasonably warm temperatures continued this afternoon. We had a high of 82 degrees here on the University of Florida campus. A mix of some sun and clouds out there right now, but coming up for the weekend, we do have our next front on the way, and I'm going to tell you what the pick day of the weekend will be.
You're watching WUFT TV News.
Welcome back. Governor Rick Scott signs a bill to give more dogs a second chance as pets.
The bill was introduced by Representative Greg Stubbe, but inspired by a furry friend. WUFT's Megan Bell joins us live from the newsroom. Megan, what did you find out about the bill's inspiration today?
The bill was inspired by a dog named Patty. The dog is facing consequences in Manatee County after causing an injury to a small child. It required that the dog be put down sparked controversy and led to a new state law defining an appeals process.
Before House Bill 91 was signed, dogs who caused severe injuries to humans would be put down. Now, dogs can be defended rather than suffering an automatic death penalty. The bill requires all cases involving severe injuries to humans by a dog to be resolved in accordance to a dangerous dog classification.
We don't just euthanize an animal right away. There's a process to it, and there's an appeal process if a hearing officer finds the animal a dangerous dog.
Dogs now have a chance to be returned to their owner, subject to safety restrictions.
Since the bill was signed, it gives dog owners more confidence in knowing that if an incident were to occur, an automatic death sentence may not be in their future.
It's like people, if somebody murders somebody, they don't automatically get the death sentence. So I think it's kind of cruel to do that to an animal.
It's not automatic. First, they have to be classified as a dangerous dog. In Alachua County, one such case is pending. The Animal Services Director says each case is different and circumstances vary.
We've had dangerous dog cases that we weren't going to euthanize the animal, but because the owner could not either financially or physically control the dog, they surrendered the dog over to us and we euthanized the animal.
In the past year, there have also been 3 dogs labeled as aggressive for harming other animals. Those pets are subject to extra safety provisions.
Thousands of people have been rallying in support of this bill. It passed both the Florida House and the Senate unanimously. Reporting live from the newsroom, Megan Bell, WUFT News.
Thank you, Megan. Always a fun day reporting when you get to spend it with some dogs. We take extra time each Wednesday for consumer and technology news.
And Stephanie Byrne is here to catch us up. Stephanie?
Well, Marie and Connor, we're going to talk about everything from cell phone apps and identity fraud, and then we're going to talk about checking accounts later on.
All right.
If you prefer talking on the phone but the convenience of a text, there's an app for you. NBC's Mike Wendland runs down a few options for walkie-talkie style messaging.
Zello promises to turn your phone or tablet into a walkie-talkie with lightning-fast speed and free push-to-talk feature. You just push a button, record your message, and you send it over Wi-Fi or your data network, just like you would with a walkie-talkie. You can set it up to talk with others privately, or you can create or join a larger group. Zello is free for iOS, Android, and Windows phones. Aptly named Roger is another app with walkie-talkie-like features. Just a push of the big simple button, record your message, send. One especially cool feature about the Roger app is that you can see the location, the weather, the time of day of the person who's receiving your message, and all you need to get started is the phone number of the person you want to start communicating with via Roger. And recipients don't even need the app installed. The app's free for iOS and Android. And Voxer also has the ability to deliver short recorded messages. You can decide to listen to messages when they're delivered, or you can wait until you're in a more private setting. You can also see the location of others, even send photos, videos, and your location to others through Voxer. Voxer is free for iOS, Android, and Windows Phone.
And Home Depot has agreed to pay at least $19.5 million to consumers after a 2014 data breach. The retailer has agreed to set up a $13 million fund to compensate shoppers for out-of-pocket losses. Home Depot will also spend $6.5 million on identity protection services for more than 50 million affected cardholders. The settlement is awaiting court approval. A new survey finds your best bet to set up a free checking account may be with a local credit union rather than a big national bank. According to a Bankrate.com survey, credit unions are more than twice as likely as banks to offer free checking. The survey checked the country's 50 largest credit unions and found that 76% of their checking accounts are free. This means no service fees or per transaction charges, regardless of balance or activity. With St. Patrick's Day coming up, Americans will be digging into their pots of gold to celebrate. A survey from the National Retail Federation hints that more than 125 million Americans will celebrate the holiday while spending an average of $35. For this holiday, more than half of consumers will buy special food or drinks, 28% go for clothing or accessories, and an additional 23% spring for decorations. Whole Foods is looking into solar power for its stores and distribution centers. The supermarket chain will install rooftop solar panels in up to 100 stores and distribution centers in the coming year. Whole Foods says a rooftop unit can generate as much as 20% of a store's annual electricity needs. And Marie and Connor, it turns out that a Chipotle in Massachusetts actually closed today because an employer tested positive for neurovirus.
You know, that's horrible to hear, but at the same time, that kind of makes me crave Chipotle.
Chipotle's kind of worth the risk, actually.
You want to go?
Yeah, maybe after the show.
Oh, I'm always down for some Chipotle.
It's on you, right?
Maybe.
All right, thanks, Stephanie. Thank you. All right, lucky for all those schools on spring break right now, we've got some spring-like temperatures here in Florida.
Yeah, lucky for them. Amanda, how much longer can we expect these warmer temperatures to last?
Well, we've got a few more days of these warmer temperatures. In fact, the warmer temperatures are going to stick around, but the rain chances are going to come back into the forecast by the weekend. I feel like we kind of got gypped here at the University of Florida because we had some even cooler temperatures. They were still above average last week, but it's really nice right now with temperatures in the 80s for the next 5 or 6 days, and it's going to get even warmer for the next couple of days with near record highs possible for Thursday and Friday. But I mentioned that front. It is going to bring us a chance for some rain on Sunday. It's a good chance of some rain and thunder, but it's not a weekend washout. I mentioned earlier that the pick day of the weekend could be Saturday, so you might want to plan some outdoor activities then. And then after that front moves through, we're going to have another nice stretch of some generally warm and dry conditions again starting on Monday. But currently out there, like I said, warm in the 80s right now here in Gainesville, 81 degrees, 83 in Cedar Key. It's a little bit cooler along the coastline because we've got that southeast flow coming in, and it's going to keep those coastal areas a little bit cooler than the inland areas. And that's where we can also expect the fog to form tonight, a little bit more inland, a little bit west of I-75 just after 5 a.m. I think that's when we could start to see the fog develop. And then after that, towards drive time, it could be a little bit more widespread, but keep in mind, not affecting the coast too much on the first coast there. In terms of temperatures, they stay mild tonight. They slowly fall into the mid-60s, 64 by midnight, 63 by 2 a.m., and for an overall night low in the upper 50s. So pretty mild out there when you step out the door. A little bit of cloud cover just like it was this morning, but that will break off and a little bit clear out by the middle morning and by the end of the day tomorrow because temperatures are rising even warmer. 86 for a high in Gainesville, 88 in Ocala, 86 in Crystal River. That southeasterly flow continuing here and continuing to bring in a little bit of moisture, and it'll feel a little bit more humid out there as well. Friday's even warmer as well, 87 degrees for a high in Gainesville, 88 in Ocala, and 86 in Crystal River. Keep in mind, all while the First Coast is just a little bit cooler than us here in that inland areas because that southeast flow is continuing. And that's all thanks to high pressure that is centered over us here in Florida. And you can see we've got not much going on, and that's thanks to that high pressure. But if we look a little bit further to the west, we've got a big mess of a situation here. There's a low pressure center all the way down into the mountains of Mexico and bringing buckets of rain to the Gulf Coast states here, up to a foot in some areas. This is a strong front that is slowly moving eastwards, and it's not even going to reach us until the end of the weekend. That's our next chance for rain that I mentioned a little bit ago. It's going to continue to stay there through at least Friday, slowly move a little bit closer on Saturday, and not even until Saturday afternoon, that's when it'll really start to arrive to us here in Florida. But you can see, so Saturday, the pick day of the weekend, Sunday, a little bit better chance for rain. But keep in mind, all while before that arrives, these temperatures are well above average. In fact, above 10 degrees above average each and every day until Sunday when that rain moves through. But even after that cold front moves through, those temperatures don't drop too much. Back to you.
Thanks, Amanda. The Florida softball team is at home for a double header today against South Dakota.
That's right. The top-ranked Gators are still undefeated, but they've yet to begin the meat of their schedule.
That's right. This will be the last matchup before the SEC play this weekend, and we will have a live report from the KDC Scholl Stadium, so stay tuned. Sports is next. The Florida Gators softball team is off to its third best start in season in the school history. Welcome back to sports. I'm Kaylee Glider. They've won 22 straight games, and tonight the Gators host a doubleheader against South Dakota. WFT's sports reporter Sarah Mack joins us from KDC Scholl Presley Stadium. Sarah, do you think that this team can keep the streak going?
Well, Kaylee, I think it's pretty safe to say that they will. Just looking at the numbers, this Florida softball team is on fire. 12 shutouts and 11 Mercy Rule wins just 5 weeks into the season. Right now, the Gators are in their first game in today's doubleheader against South Dakota Coyotes. Right now, it's the bottom of the fifth. Florida leads 5-0. We're in a fifth inning stretch, so currently no one's on base. Although the orange and blue are off to a great start, this team has yet to face an SEC opponent. So tonight is the last chance for Coach Walton and his team to make any adjustments to their game before the Gators open conference play Saturday against Auburn. Game 2 against South Dakota will be beginning within the hour, and it's a beautiful day for a ball game, so come out and enjoy the day. Reporting from KDC Scholl Presley Stadium, Sarah Mack, WUFT Sports.
Thanks, Sarah. As for the Florida Gator baseball team, they return home to continue their undefeated run at McKeithen Stadium. Last night, the Gators met at UNF and rallied for the fifth come-from-behind win this season. Junior right-hander Dane Dunning set the tone for the 6-2 victory, striking out 10, walking 2, and allowing just 2 runs in 6 innings. The Gators will complete the midweek series tonight with freshman Jackson Cower on the mound to start things off at 7. The Florida Gator football team took to the field for its first spring practice today. It may not be the spring Coach McElwain is used to from Montana, but he made a point as being just as excited for this new beginning. With the suspension of Antonio Callaway and Treon Harris, it's the beginning for several new additions to the team. From the helm, the quarterback competition will feature the 3 newcomers, Felipe Franks, Kyle Trask, and Purdue transfer from Austin Appleby into the competition for Florida. There will be 12 early enrollees compared to last year's 2, and Coach McElwain says the infusion of new faces has increased the excitement leading up to the spring game.
Obviously, one thing that's a little bit different for us this year is kind of the energy that's created when you infuse 12 new bodies into spring. You know, sometimes you maybe get a couple here and there or whatever, but this is actually a very large amount. And the thing that's been kind of cool is you can feel their energy and excitement, which is kind of contagious with the rest of the guys.
Despite National Signing Day being last month, high school athletes are still in the pursuit of continuing to play at the next level. Buchholz High School quarterback Jackson White put the pen to paper committing to Marshall University. Jackson, son of former assistant coach Brian White at the University of Florida, will be coached under another Urban Meyer assistant, Doc Holliday. During Jackson's senior season, he threw a record-breaking 2,732 yards and led the Bobcats to a 10-2 finish. Buchholz head coach Mark Whittemore said that there will be big shoes to fill, but the senior QB wants to be remembered for his role on and off the field.
I hope I left behind a legacy that people remember me as a tough football player. Not just that I set a bunch of records, but that I led my team in a professional and courteous way.
All right, thanks, Kaylee. Before we go, let's get one last check on the weather.
Here's Amanda.
Well, it's going to be a nice drive home with temperatures in the low 80s right now. Just a few spotty clouds out there, pretty much mostly clear skies, and temperatures will remain mild as we head into the evening. Only a low of 58 degrees tonight. We could see some patchy fog out there when you step out the door, so maybe plan for a couple extra minutes when you do that on your Thursday morning. Temperatures will approach record levels by Friday. 87 is our forecasted high, 88 is the record. So we'll keep you updated on that. Our next chance for rain comes in on Sunday when we have our next front moving through. We could have a couple thunderstorms out there, but even as that cold front moves through, temperatures will not drop very much at all. In fact, they'll stay in the 80s for the next 6 days. Back to you.
Thanks, Amanda. We'll be back tomorrow at 5, but your Florida news is always on at WUFT.org.
Here on WUFT TV, BBC World News is up next, and the PBS NewsHour is coming up at 7 o'clock. Have a good night.